The corner office had a view of the entire city, floor-to-ceiling windows, leather chairs, a desk made of Brazilian walnut. Sarah sat behind that desk every morning at 6:30, coffee in hand, laptop open, ready to conquer another day. She was 34 years old and already a senior vice president at one of the largest consulting firms in the country. Her salary was $280,000 a year, plus bonuses that sometimes doubled that figure. She wore designer suits. She flew business class. She had a penthouse apartment in the financial district, a luxury car in the garage, and an investment portfolio that grew every quarter. By every conventional measure, Sarah had won. She had climbed the ladder faster than her peers. She had the wealth, the status, the respect. But every morning when she looked out that window at the city below, she felt nothing except a hollow ache in her chest. The money was there. The success was real. But something fundamental was missing. And Sarah had no idea what it was or how to find it. This is the story of how a woman at the peak of conventional success walked away from everything to discover what true wealth actually means. Sarah's path to corporate success had been planned since childhood. Her parents were immigrants who had worked brutal hours to give their children opportunities. Her father ran a small grocery store. Her mother cleaned houses. They told Sarah and her brother the same thing every day. Study hard, get good grades, find a stable career with good money. Success meant security. Security meant never having to struggle like they did. Sarah internalized this completely. She was the perfect student, straight grades, perfect test scores, full scholarship to an elite university. She majored in economics and business, graduated top of her class, and was immediately recruited by a prestigious consulting firm. The work was intense. 80-hour weeks were normal. She traveled constantly, living in hotels, eating every meal alone or with clients she didn't care about. She had no time for friendships, hobbies, or relationships. But the money kept increasing. Every promotion brought a bigger salary, a larger bonus, more financial security. Sarah told herself the sacrifice was worth it. By her early 30s, Sarah had everything she thought she wanted. The six-figure income, the impressive title, the luxury lifestyle. She could afford anything. Designer clothes, expensive restaurants, weekend trips to Paris or Tokyo. She sent money home to her parents every month. She had substantial savings and a growing investment portfolio. On paper, her life was perfect, but Sarah couldn't sleep. She would lie awake at 3 in the morning, staring at the ceiling, feeling a weight on her chest that she couldn't explain. During the day, she maintained the appearance of success, confident in meetings, decisive with clients, professional in every interaction. But inside, she felt like she was drowning. The work that once excited her now felt meaningless. She was solving problems for corporations that didn't need solving, helping rich companies get richer, spending her life in conference rooms arguing about quarterly earnings and market strategies. What was the point? She was making money, yes. But for what? To buy things she didn't need, to impress people she didn't respect, to continue a lifestyle that left her exhausted and empty. The breaking point came during a particularly brutal project. Sarah's team was advising a manufacturing company on how to cut costs. The solution was obvious: automate the production line and lay off 300 workers. Sarah wrote the report. She presented the findings. The executives loved it. They would save millions. The workers would lose everything. Sarah flew home that Friday night and sat in her empty apartment, still wearing her business suit, staring at nothing. She had just destroyed 300 lives to increase shareholder value. And for what? A bonus. Professional recognition. The approval of people who would forget her name the moment she stopped being useful. Sarah felt something crack inside her. Not dramatically, not suddenly, just a quiet, definitive break. She realized she didn't want this life anymore. She didn't want the money if it came at the cost of her humanity. She didn't want the success if it meant spending her days doing work that felt fundamentally hollow. She wanted something else. She wanted meaning. She wanted peace. She wanted to live in a way that aligned with her values instead of betraying them. Sarah started reading philosophy. She remembered a college course that had briefly mentioned Stoicism. She had dismissed it at the time as irrelevant to modern life. But now, desperate for answers, she ordered Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. The book arrived on Monday. Sarah started reading that night. The opening passages struck her immediately. Marcus Aurelius was one of the most powerful men in the world, the emperor of Rome, and yet he wrote constantly about self-control, about not being corrupted by power, about living simply and virtuously regardless of external circumstances. One passage stopped her cold. Very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking. Sarah read that sentence 5 times. Very little is needed. It contradicted everything she had been taught. Her entire life had been built on the belief that happiness came from achievement, from accumulation, from external validation. But Marcus Aurelius, a man with unlimited wealth and power, was saying the opposite. Happiness comes from within, from your thoughts, from your values, from how you choose to live. Sarah devoured the rest of the book that week. Then she read Seneca's Letters from a Stoic, then Epictetus's Enchiridion. The Stoic philosophy was clear and uncompromising. There is only one thing truly within your control: your own mind, your judgments, your responses, your character. Everything else, wealth, reputation, health, other people's opinions, is outside your control and therefore indifferent. The Stoics taught that we should focus entirely on what we can control and accept everything else with equanimity. They taught that virtue, living according to wisdom, justice, courage, and self-control, is the only true good. They taught that simplicity and self-sufficiency are sources of freedom, while luxury and dependence on external things are forms of slavery. Sarah felt like someone had handed her a map to a country she didn't know existed. Everything she had been chasing, the money, the status, the luxury, were what the Stoics called preferred indifference. Nice to have, perhaps, but not essential for happiness, and certainly not worth sacrificing your character or peace of mind to obtain. The decision came gradually, then all at once. Sarah started experimenting with Stoic practices. She practiced negative visualization, imagining losing her job, her apartment, her savings. At first, the exercise terrified her, but gradually, as she sat with the possibility of loss, she realized something profound. She would be okay. Even if she lost everything, she would still have her mind, her skills, her character. She wouldn't be destroyed. This realization was liberating. If she could survive without these things, then she wasn't actually dependent on them. She practiced voluntary discomfort, cold showers, walks in the rain, weekly fasting. These small acts of self-discipline showed her that she was stronger than she thought. She didn't need comfort and luxury to be happy. She practiced distinguishing between what was in her control and what wasn't. She couldn't control her clients' decisions, her boss's moods, the economy, her colleagues' opinions. But she could control how she responded to these things, whether she maintained her integrity, whether she acted according to her values. After 3 months of study and practice, Sarah made her decision. She would quit her job, not to take another corporate position, not to start a consulting firm of her own, but to completely reimagine her life according to Stoic principles. She would live simply. She would focus on what truly mattered. She would trade financial wealth for internal freedom. Her colleagues thought she was insane. Her boss offered her a promotion and a substantial raise to stay. Her parents were horrified, but Sarah had clarity for the first time in years. She wasn't throwing anything away. She was reclaiming her life. She gave her resignation with 3 months' notice. She used that time to simplify her life dramatically. She sold her penthouse apartment and most of her possessions. The designer clothes, the expensive furniture, the art on the walls, almost everything went. She kept only what was useful and meaningful. A few changes of simple clothing, some books, a laptop, basic kitchen items, that was it. She moved into a small studio apartment in a quiet neighborhood. The rent was $800 a month instead of $4,000. The space was a fraction of what she'd had before, but it felt lighter, freer, more honest. Sarah restructured her finances around Stoic principles of sufficiency and self-reliance. She calculated her actual needs: housing, food, basic utilities, health insurance, transportation. The total came to about $2,000 a month. She had saved aggressively during her corporate years, so she had a substantial nest egg. But instead of relying on that savings indefinitely, Sarah decided to find work that aligned with her values, even if it paid far less. She took a position teaching business ethics at a community college. The salary was $42,000 a year, less than a fifth of what she'd been making. But the work felt meaningful. She was helping students think critically about money, success, and what kind of life they wanted to build. She also started tutoring students in economics and math 3 evenings a week. This brought in an additional $1,000 a month. Combined with her teaching salary, Sarah was earning about $55,000 a year. She was living comfortably on $2,000 a month and saving the rest. Her savings rate had actually increased despite earning dramatically less, because her expenses had dropped even more dramatically. This was the Stoic principle of self-sufficiency in action. True wealth is not about how much you earn, but about needing less. Sarah's daily life transformed completely. She woke up naturally around 6:30 without an alarm. She spent the first hour of each morning practicing Stoic exercises. She wrote in her journal, reflecting on the day ahead and reminding herself of key principles. She practiced negative visualization, imagining loss to build resilience and gratitude. She reviewed the dichotomy of control, separating what was within her power from what wasn't. This morning practice set the tone for her entire day. She walked to work, a 40-minute journey through quiet streets. No more sitting in traffic or cramming into crowded trains, just walking, observing, thinking. At the college, she taught her classes with genuine passion. She mentored students who reminded her of herself at that age, hungry for success but unclear about what success actually meant. In the evenings, she tutored or read or spent time with the small circle of friends she had reconnected with after years of neglect. She cooked simple meals at home. She went to bed early. She slept soundly for the first time in a decade. The most surprising change was internal. Sarah felt calm, genuinely, deeply calm. The anxiety that had plagued her for years had vanished. The hollow ache in her chest was gone. She felt present in her own life instead of constantly racing towards some future achievement. She felt aligned with herself. Her actions matched her values. Her work had meaning. Her relationships were authentic. She owned very little, but she felt rich in the ways that actually mattered. Sarah realized that this was what the Stoics had been trying to teach her. True wealth is internal. It is the peace that comes from living according to virtue. It is the freedom that comes from needing less. It is the satisfaction that comes from focusing on what you can control and accepting everything else. You cannot buy this wealth with a 6-figure salary. You cannot achieve it through promotions or luxury apartments. You can only cultivate it through self-discipline, wisdom, and the courage to live differently. Sarah started sharing her story. She wrote essays about her experience, about walking away from corporate success to live like a Stoic. She posted them on a simple blog. The response was overwhelming. Thousands of people reached out to her, mostly women in their 30s and 40s who felt trapped in the same cycle Sarah had escaped. They had the good jobs, the good salaries, the external markers of success. But they felt empty. They wanted what Sarah had found: meaning, peace, alignment. Sarah realized there was a hunger for an alternative narrative. Society tells us that success means climbing the ladder, earning more, buying more, achieving more. But so many people reach the top of that ladder and discover it was leaning against the wrong wall. They've sacrificed their health, their relationships, their peace of mind for things that don't actually make them happy. Stoicism offers a different path, a path based on internal values rather than external achievements, a path based on sufficiency rather than accumulation. Sarah developed a framework for others who wanted to follow a similar journey. She called it the Stoic simplification. Here is that framework. First, conduct a radical audit of your life. Look at everything you do, everything you own, everything you spend money on. Ask yourself, does this align with my values? Does this contribute to my well-being? Or am I doing this because society says I should? Be ruthlessly honest. Most people discover that large portions of their lives are dedicated to things they don't actually care about. Second, calculate your actual needs, not your wants, not what advertising tells you you need, but your genuine necessities for a good life: housing, food, healthcare, meaningful work, authentic relationships, time for reflection and growth. Add these up. You'll probably find that you need far less money than you currently spend. This realization is liberating. It means you have more options than you thought. Third, identify what the Stoics call preferred indifference in your life. These are things that are nice to have but not essential for happiness. Money beyond your basic needs, status, luxury items, social approval. Once you recognize these as indifference, you can hold them lightly. You can pursue them if they come naturally, but you don't sacrifice your character or peace of mind to obtain them. Fourth, simplify your financial life dramatically. Reduce your expenses to the minimum comfortable level. Eliminate debt completely. Build a substantial emergency fund so you're not dependent on any single income source. This creates financial freedom, which is the foundation for all other freedoms. When you need less money, you have more choices about how to spend your time and energy. Fifth, find work that aligns with your values, even if it pays less. The Stoics believed that meaningful work is essential to a good life. Work should express your character and contribute to the common good. If your current job fails this test, start planning a transition. Sixth, practice voluntary discomfort regularly. Take cold showers. Fast occasionally. Give up small comforts for a day or a week. This builds resilience and self-discipline, showing you that you're stronger than you think, and it makes you grateful for what you have. After a day of fasting, a simple meal tastes incredible. This practice prevents taking your comforts for granted. Seventh, practice negative visualization daily. Spend 10 minutes each morning imagining loss. Your job, your home, your savings, your health. This isn't pessimism, it's preparation. By mentally rehearsing loss, you remove its power to devastate you. You also cultivate gratitude for what you currently have. Every morning, Sarah imagines waking up with nothing. Then she opens her eyes and feels grateful for her simple apartment, her meaningful work, her health, her freedom. Eighth, eliminate status-seeking behavior completely. Stop trying to impress others. Stop comparing yourself to peers or colleagues or social media profiles. The Stoics taught that other people's opinions are outside your control and therefore irrelevant to your happiness. Live according to your own values, not society's expectations. Ninth, cultivate self-sufficiency in practical skills. Learn to cook well with simple ingredients. Learn basic maintenance and repair. Learn to entertain yourself without spending money. The more self-sufficient you are, the less you depend on external systems and the more freedom you have. Sarah learned to cut her own hair, repair her own clothes, and grow herbs on her small balcony. These skills saved her money, but more importantly, they gave her a sense of capability and independence. 10th, build authentic relationships based on shared values rather than professional networking or social climbing. The Stoics valued genuine friendship deeply. Sarah let go of most of her corporate contacts. They were transactional relationships, useful for career advancement but hollow. Instead, she invested in a small number of deep friendships with people who shared her values and supported her growth. These relationships are priceless. 11th, create daily rituals that reinforce Stoic principles. Sarah's morning journal practice keeps her grounded in Stoic wisdom. She writes down key teachings and reflects on how to apply them during the day. She reviews her actions each evening, noting where she maintained her character and where she fell short. This practice creates continuous growth. 12th, contribute to others in meaningful ways. The Stoics believed in service to the common good. Sarah tutors students, writes essays to help others find their own path, and volunteers teaching financial literacy to low-income adults. This work gives her purpose beyond herself. Sarah has been living this way for 3 years now. People often ask her if she misses her old life. The money, the status, the luxury. She always gives the same answer. I don't miss anything except the illusion that those things mattered. The truth is, Sarah is happier now than she ever was in her corporate life. She has less money but more freedom, less status but more peace, less luxury but more meaning. She wakes up every day knowing that her life aligns with her values. She goes to sleep every night with a clear conscience. She has rediscovered who she is beneath the titles and the salary and the performance. She is a human being practicing wisdom, justice, courage, and self-control. That is her identity now. Not her job, not her income, not what others think of her, just her character and her commitment to living well. This is what the Stoics called eudaimonia, a life well lived, a life of excellence and virtue. A life that cannot be taken away by external circumstances, because it is built on internal foundations. The corporate world wants you trapped. It wants you believing that you need the 6-figure salary, the impressive title, the luxury lifestyle. It wants you working 80 hours a week, too exhausted to question whether this is actually what you want. It wants you spending your money as fast as you make it, staying on the treadmill forever. This benefits the system. It keeps you compliant, predictable, controllable. But Stoicism sets you free. It shows you that you don't need what they're selling. You don't need to sacrifice your life for a salary. You don't need luxury to be happy. You need wisdom. You need virtue. You need alignment between your values and your actions. That's it. That's the whole formula. And it's available to anyone brave enough to reject the conventional narrative and build something different. Subscribe to Money and Stoicism to master your finances and your mind. Like this video if you seek true freedom. Now go to the comments and answer this question. What would you do with your life if money were not a concern? What work would you pursue? How would you spend your days? What kind of person would you become? Write it down. Don't overthink it. Just write the first honest answer that comes to mind. This is not a fantasy exercise. This is you connecting with your authentic values beneath all the conditioning and expectations. Once you know what you truly want, you can start building toward it. You can start simplifying your financial life so you need less money. You can start making choices that align with your values instead of society's expectations. Before you leave, sit with this question, just for yourself, in silence. What are you afraid of losing? What external thing do you believe you cannot live without? Your current income, your status, your reputation, the approval of others. Whatever it is, imagine losing it. Really feel it. Sit with that discomfort. Now ask yourself, would I still be okay? Would I still have value as a person? Would my life still have meaning? The Stoics would say yes. Absolutely yes. Because your worth is not determined by anything external. It is determined by your character, your wisdom, your virtue. And those things cannot be taken from you. They can only be developed or neglected by your own choices. That is your power. That is your freedom. Choose wisely.